and welcome back to another Souls-like video. I've spent countless hours in the worlds of Elden Ring, Liza P, AI Limit, and the first Berserker Kazan. The feeling of losing yourself in these bleak, challenging universes is something I'll never forget. The joy of conquering that impossible boss, of finally cracking the code of a seemingly unsolvable level, is part of what's made me a Souls-like fan for life. But here's the thing, when a genre becomes so dominant, when everyone is trying to bottle the magic of From Software's formula, it begs the question, is the Souls-like genre getting stale? Or is it on the verge of something even more exciting? In today's video, I want to deep dive into this question, look at the state of the genre, and explore what's next. So, buckle up, because this just might get interesting. Let's take a step back for a moment. The Souls-like genre wasn't always a trend. It was a revolution, a counter-response to the era of hand-holding and instant gratification. When Demon's Souls came out in 2009, it was a game that demanded attention. It didn't explain everything to you, it didn't guide you by the hand through every decision. Instead, it invited you to explore, to fail, and to learn from every mistake. Demon's Souls 2009 was groundbreaking, but its success wasn't immediate. Back in the day, it was a niche experience that attracted hardcore players and the curious few. Fast forward to the release of Dark Souls 2011, and we saw From Software establish the core DNA of the genre. Tight, stamina-based combat, interconnected world design, and that epic sense of isolation. Bloodborne 2015 and Sekiro pushed the boundaries, adding faster combat or deeper narrative elements. Yet the basic formula remained. Then we had the juggernaut, Elden Ring 2022, a masterpiece that merged the Souls-like formula with an open world design. The result? Over 20 million copies sold? It wasn't just a game, it was a cultural phenomenon. This all paved the way for a slew of imitations and spin-offs. And that's where the real question lies. Has the formula that we loved in Dark Souls and Elden Ring started to wear thin? Or is it evolving in ways we've yet to fully understand? There's no denying the fact that the Souls-like genre has exploded in popularity. Every indie studio, every major publisher seems to want a piece of that pie. But the big question is, how many of these titles really capture the spirit of what made the genre great, and how many are just mimicking the surface-level features, like dodge rolls and bonfires, without understanding what makes the gameplay so compelling? We've seen a flood of Souls-like games in recent years. Titles like Lords of the Fallen 2023, Mortar Shell that came out in 2020, Remnant from the Ashes which came out in 2019, and Lords of the Fallen 2 are all trying to capitalize on the same formula, but with varying degrees of success. Some are mechanically tight, but lack the deep atmosphere or the intricate world building we get from a From Software game. Others tried to integrate combat systems like Sekiro's parrying, but missed the weight and impact of every action. The most egregious offenders are the ones that simply try to replicate the Souls-like combat loop. Dodge, hit, heal, repeat, without considering why it works. Failure to innovate or bring something new to the table has led to a lot of very forgettable titles. Games that feel like they're just checking off boxes. Check, the bonfire is there. Check, the enemy is aggressive and respawns when you rest. But what's the soul of the game? What is it offering that's fresh? The biggest problem with many of these attempts is that they lack soul. They're just hard games with little substance behind them. They feel repetitive because they don't evolve. They copy-paste elements from games that did it better. And here's the crux of the issue. Souls-like games aren't just hard. They're meaningful. Every step in a From Software game feels earned. Now I know what you're thinking, but wait, aren't these games supposed to be hard? Yes, the challenge is a core part of the appeal, But when you stretch that formula too thin, you risk losing the very essence of what makes Souls-like games so compelling. As I mentioned before, Elden Ring was a massive success because it merged the traditional Souls-like formula with the freedom of an open world. It made the experience feel fresh, exciting, and vast. The thing is, though, the larger world, the less personal each encounter feels. That's a real risk. Oversaturation. Elden Ring does it brilliantly, but other games have fallen into the trap of too much space, too many enemies, too many bosses, all bloat, no substance. When you take the formula of tight world building and apply it to sprawling open worlds, you need to make sure that every corner of the map has a reason to be there. Without a sense of purpose to the exploration, that open world becomes a ghost town of repetitive content. It's the same with difficulty. The challenge in Souls-like games is designed around mastering mechanics, not just surviving against overwhelming odds. Sure, some of the toughest bosses require skill, but too many clone games fall into the trap of inflating difficulty artificially through mechanics like spongy health bars or spiked damage numbers. And that's just frustrating, not fun. But it's not all doom and gloom. While many Souls-like games are stuck in a loop of copying the same formula, others are starting to push the boundaries, challenging the genre's conventions in ways that are truly exciting. Innovation is key. Games like Lords of the Fallen 2 and Wu Chain Fallen Feathers are starting to break the mold in interesting ways. Wu Chain incorporates Chinese mythology, bringing something fresh and culturally rich to the table. The gameplay is slower and heavier, emphasizing timing and parries rather than just quick reflexes. Meanwhile, Lords of the Fallen 2 is trying to innovate by expanding the traditional Souls-like experience into more action RPG territory, with faster combat, more expansive skill trees, and deeper character progression. And let's not forget about AI Limit. This game blends cyberpunk aesthetics with Souls-like mechanics, offering a world full of technological ruins and corporate dystopias. The combat is still grounded in stamina, but with a twist. Modular gear and core energy replace traditional stamina. You'll still need to focus on precision and tactics, but the environment feels more futuristic, a deep departure from the medieval and gothic settings we're used to. What's so exciting about this is that we're starting to see new mechanics and fresh settings. As the genre matures, the question isn't just how we refine the core gameplay, but how we push the boundaries of what a Souls-like can be. So what does the future hold for Souls-like? Is the genre getting stale, or are we just seeing the beginning of a new wave? Here's where I think things could go. One of the most exciting possibilities is the evolution of storytelling within the genre. While From Software games are known for their cryptic, lore-heavy storytelling, future Souls-like games could begin to integrate more direct narrative choices, deeper character arcs, and emotional interactions with NPCs. Imagine a world where your decisions actively shape the world around you, where moral choices are not just binary, but have a ripple effect throughout your journey. This could add real weight to your actions, making the already challenging combat feel even more consequential. I mentioned AI Limit and the potential for cyberpunk Souls-like. But what if we saw more non-Western mythologies brought into the genre? We could have Aztec-themed Souls-like, or games inspired by African and Polynesian legends. These settings could offer new enemies, new powers, and new lore that would feel fresh compared to the tired, gothic landscapes we've seen for years. Picture a Souls-like that doesn't follow the usual combat loop. Perhaps you're not just fighting to kill, but fighting for survival, or reasoning with enemies instead of battling them. Time loop mechanics like in Returnal could make every death feel like part of a larger plan. Or how about a Souls-like with deck building combat like Slay the Spire, where your choices in each run could affect how you approach enemies? The possibilities are endless. So, is the Souls-like genre getting stale? Maybe. It's easy to feel like the formula is wearing thin, with so many clones and imitations flooding the market, but if you look closer, there's innovation bubbling beneath the surface. Games that are pushing boundaries, redefining what challenge and immersion can look like. We're at a turning point. We've spent over a decade refining the formula. Now it's time to break it open. What if Souls-like wasn't a genre defined by dodge rolls and bonfires, but a design philosophy rooted in trust, consequence, and emotional payoff? So now I turn the question over to you. What's next for the genre? Are you still excited about what's coming? Or do you feel it's starting to blur together? Let me know in the comments, and if you're hungry for more Souls-like deep dives, lore breakdowns, and future previews, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell to know when new videos are posted. And if you haven't already, head on over to twitch.tv/limerivt to follow me and watch me play Souls-like games live on the daily. Thank you so much, and until then, stay strong, stay patient, and keep your parry sharp. Goodbye!